I can remember 7 years ago when Apple became the world's first trillion-dollar company. Now there are 10 of them that trade in the United States. NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and then the smaller Broadcom, Taiwan Semi, Tesla, and Berkshire Hathaway. These aren't the only trillionaires. Saudi Aramco is worth $1.66 trillion, but that's a state-owned business, not one that trades here. Tonight, though, I don't want to focus on the already existing trillionaires. We know what they do, right? Instead, you know what I'm going to do? I want to search for the next trillionaire. Turns out there are not a ton of competitors here. Only 6 American companies have market capitalizations between $500 billion and $1 trillion. There's also one Chinese company, Tencent, but its shares aren't traded here. So let's look at the 6 closest U.S. contenders that could possibly become the next members of the Trillionaires Club. I'm going to handicap their odds. We're going to do it just like racehorses. We're going to start with the long shots like a MasterCard, which I'm paying at 50-1 odds, as it's currently the furthest away from the finish line with a market cap of $517 billion. People always seem to be shocked when they hear how big these payments companies really are. But you know what? They keep putting up steady earnings growth with no credit risk, and their stocks keep chugging along. MasterCard's earnings have risen at a 16.8% compound annual growth rate over the past decade. This one's slow and steady, which is why I call it a long shot. I've owned it for a long time for the Charitable Trust. I shouldn't have gotten bored with it. I mean, it's just such a winner. It's a great investment. Got to be patient. Call it the 6th most likely. 5th, there's Visa, another long shot that's in the same boat. Although I give it 40-1 odds because, look, it's got a market cap already about almost $700 billion. Same story as MasterCard, though. 16% compound annual earnings growth over the past decade, 14% growth expected this year. No matter how much Wall Street worries about the new payments platforms, they never seem to make a dent in the big credit card networks. Like MasterCard, though, Visa doesn't really have the juice to leapfrog its more richly valued competitors in the trillion-dollar race. But, man, this stock's given shareholders an annual equivalent gain of about 17% for the past decade. If they keep it up, Visa should be a trillionaire within 3 years. And I bet Visa gets there. I just doubt they'll get there first. Now, let's talk about the real contenders, okay? Let's start with Eli Lilly, one I always said was going to get to $1 trillion, but it's really stumbled here. It's in 4th. I'm going to give it 15-1 odds now. Market cap of $780 billion, the most valuable healthcare company in the world. Lilly's grown by leaps and bounds over the past few years thanks to its revolutionary GLP-1 drug that's known as Mounjaro for diabetes, but Zepbound for weight loss. It even got pretty darn close to trillionaire status last year, with its market cap peaking at $912 billion in the summer of 2024, where I thought it was going to go over. I was wrong. But the stock's been choppy since then. We own it for the trust. Some of that's because Lilly's had to digest its gains. Some of it's from worries about competition. Both from Novo Nordisk, that's the maker of Ozempic, slashing prices, and from other drug companies who are working on similar products. Every time the news comes out, the stock gets hit. Some of it's due to potential regulatory headwinds, too. President Trump likes to talk about cracking down on high drug prices, although how far he'll actually go, anybody's guess. As I mentioned, we own Lilly for the Charitable Trust, and I've been saying the stock needs some kind of catalyst to get things going. You know what? Maybe the FDA has to approve a GLP drug for a new indication, right? Maybe some progress in the pill form, because people don't like to take the shot. Until that happens, I'm putting Lilly's odds of winning the $1 trillion rate, really into the race to $1 trillion, at 15-1. Let's see if they come up and surprise us with something on Thursday morning. Third, there's Walmart. Now, currently, this is the closest company to the $1 trillion level. It's $833 billion market cap. I'm putting its odds at 10-1. While I love Walmart, I love to shop there, I'm only making it my 3rd favorite in this race because the stock's had an incredible run. And get this, it's trading at around 40 times earnings. That's very high for any retailer, save Costco. Even Amazon only trades at 34 times this year's earnings. Of course, Walmart's made some major improvements, and the company's massive scale allows it to cope with the tariffs better than nearly all of its competitors. But the stock, it's just not cheap. My number 2 favorite is Oracle at 4-1. Current market cap, just over $800 billion. If I were making these odds based solely on momentum, Oracle would be the overwhelming favorite to be the next trillionaire, as it's ridden the AI data center wave to achieve tremendous gains. This stock is up 274% over the past 3 years, including a 69% gain year to date. A big chunk of that comes just since Oracle announced a massive cloud deal with OpenAI last month. If the stock can keep up its recent momentum, then I think it would hit the $1 trillion finish line pretty darn soon. But I don't have Oracle as the absolute favorite, frankly, because I think there should be some recognition of the risk that these guys are taking. At this point, basically all of the major players in the AI data center trade, from NVIDIA to Broadcom to AMD to CoreWeave, are taking a risk in that they're assuming OpenAI will be good for the massive amounts of money it's committed to spending. And no one has more exposure to that than Oracle, which is expecting to get $60 billion per year from OpenAI in their 5-year deal. Wow. Everyone in the industry seems to think OpenAI will be good for the money, but no one needs them to be good for like Oracle does. So what's my number one favorite? JPMorgan Chase, the nation's largest bank, at the $832 billion market cap. I think it's going to be the first to $1 trillion. JPMorgan is incredibly well run. America's top banker, Jamie Dimon, at the helm. Its fortress balance sheet allows the company to consolidate in times of stress, like they did during the mini banking crisis 2 years ago, where they came out the winner. But the reason I have JPMorgan as the favorite in this race with 3-to-1 odds is very simple. The banks are on fire right now, and right now this stock is ridiculously cheap. This thing trades at 15 times this year's earnings estimates. Who said that every stock's expensive in this market? If we get a little multiple expansion and people say that they start paying on 17.5 times next year's earnings estimates, then JPMorgan wins this race in a heartbeat. Could the next $1 trillion company come from outside of this 6? Crazier things have happened. OpenAI is reportedly worth $500 billion in private financing rounds, but if they come public and they get that valuation, then Oracle will almost certainly be worth $1 trillion. Palantir is lurking at the $400 billion, but don't let the stock trades at 300 times this year's earnings estimates. Why couldn't it trade at 500? I mean, once you're up there, why not? You know what I mean? AMD sitting at $410 billion. Amazing that we can even put it in the $1 trillion camp, but I like to muse about it. But the bottom line, I think the next trillionaire will likely be one of the 6 companies that are closest to the finish line: JPMorgan, Oracle, Walmart, Eli Lilly, Visa, and MasterCard, and I'm putting them in that order. Mad Money's back after the break.
Coming up, is it time to start your engine or hit the brakes? Cramer's digging into the latest earnings from Ford and GM and seeing if these stocks get the green light to buy. Next. Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on X. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadMentions. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.